First thing we'll be talking about is basic pads and drones. Pads and drones are one of the forefront elements to ambient music and one of the aspects you'll often see other genres utilizing and adapting to their own purpose. A pad is a sustained chord or tone generated by a synthesizer, often employed for background harmony and atmosphere. It serves a similar purpose to a string section when it comes to acoustic instruments, but it's also worth noting you can synthesize stringed instruments, often to a pretty close degree of the actual instrument you're emulating. Now, the only real difference between a pad and a drone is that a drone often lasts throughout the whole composition. So a drone could just be a pad that you created that you play one long sustained note or chord of throughout one composition, but could also be called a pad in another composition where you use it, say, sparingly or with more variety, even if for the whole composition itself. It's also worth noting that there's a whole subgenre of ambient music just known as drone music, which even breaks down further into more subgenres. So if you're interested, head to Google and head down the rabbit hole. So let's get to the basics of it. First things we're going to be talking about is the Adsr Envelopes, aka attack, delay, sustain, and release, and oscillator choices. So the one thing we need to get out of the way with Massive is a wavetable synth, not just a normal subtractive synth. So you have a wide variety of waveforms you can choose just beyond square, saw, and sine, or triangle, which you see on most normal synthesizers. You have these ones like polysaw, rough math, all these other fancy names. We're just going to be addressing the basic subtractive ones that you see in most synthesizers. So first we'll start off with the sine wave. And to do that, we'll go down to sine square, turn it all the way to the left. And if we take a look over here in our smexscope, or our oscilloscope, you can take a look at it. And what I'll do is amplify it, so la la la. There you go, a pure sine wave. So sine waves look similar to a gentle wave in a bowl of water, moving up and down with no abrupt starts or stops. Common sounds similar to a sine wave include whistling, air blowing across the opening of an empty bottle, and a ringing tuning fork. So you can also use sine waves for bass, obviously. Next we'll go to sawtooths. Go over here, choose it from our default. So we'll go to saw 1, which is all the way to the right. Now, sawtooth waves, also called saw waves, have a very strong, clear buzzing sound. A sawtooth wave can be made by adding a series of sine waves at different frequencies and volume levels. The frequency of the first loudest sine wave is what we hear as the frequency of the resulting sawtooth. This is called the fundamental frequency. Each of the other progressively quieter sine waves that make up the sawtooth have frequencies which are integer multiples of the fundamental frequency. These frequencies are called harmonics. For example, an ideal sawtooth wave with a fundamental frequency of 100 Hz would have harmonics at 200 Hz, 300 Hz, 400 Hz, and so on to infinity, with each harmonic quieter than the last. Because the sawtooth wave contains every integer harmonic of the fundamental frequency, it sounds very rich to our ears. The fundamental frequency defines the pitch of the sound, while the harmonics change the character or timbre of the sound without affecting the pitch. Next we'll take a look at square waves, and to do that all we have to do is move the wavetable position to the left. This is one of the fun things about this being a wavetable synth. And if we take a look actually in our oscilloscope, the squares look kind of funny in this. This is one of those peculiar things about Massive. Now, square waves have a rich sound that's not quite as buzzy as a sawtooth wave, but not as pure as a sine. Old Nintendo game soundtracks were made almost exclusively from square waves. Like sawtooth waves, square waves can be generated by adding a series of sine waves with decreasing volume. However, the square wave contains only the odd-numbered harmonics. And finally, we'll take a look at triangle waves. In order to do that, we just need to find it on here. We have sine triangle right here. So, sine wave, and we'll move all the way with the wavetable position to the right for a triangle wave. Very easy to see in the oscilloscope. Triangle waves sound like something between a sine wave and a square wave. Like square waves, they contain only the odd harmonics of the fundamental frequency. They differ from square waves because the volume of each harmonic drops more quickly. So next we're going to take a look at the Adsr. And to do that, we're just going to go to number 4 envelope right here. And you have your attack control, decay control, sustain control, and release control. Now, these are going to vary in different synthesizers, but since we're using Massive right here, we'll take a quick gander at it. So basically anything can be turned into a pad. We'll just start off here with this triangle wave. Now, a lot of things common with a pad is you'll have either a long drawn-in attack. So if we lengthen that out, it's coming in. And what we can do is also bring our decay level up so it's sustaining at the top note. Then we can increase the release. And that's something that you'll see common in a lot of pads, but some of them also start with the attack all the way back. So it hits the sustain level immediately right off the bat. Then fades out gradually with the release. So basically you can do this with any of the waveforms that I just listed, but knowing those waveforms in and out and what type of texture and sound it's going to make is one of the reasons I just listed the characteristics of them. So we'll just start off with let's go to a saw wave. Saw waves are easy to build up on. You can make string-like sounds, you can make all sorts of stuff. So what we're going to do is go to voicing right here and thicken it up a little bit. So we go to Unisano right here. We'll give it 4 voices since we're still polyphonic. Next thing what we're going to do, if we take a look right here, is we can spread it out a bit more. So we've spread out the voices a little bit right here by detuning and using the pitch cutoff. You can go really extreme with it if you want. So we already have a richer sound to it just by using unison and spreading out the pitch a little bit. Now another little trick that you can use is to put it in fifths. In order to do that, we'll just duplicate this, move the wavetable position, increase the amplifier over here. These are both right now being sent between filter 1 and filter 2. We're going to address that in a little bit. So now it's doubled, and we just move it up 7 semitones, and we have a fifth. That's just playing one note apiece. So if we go back to our envelope, we can take a look at this, make it more of a gradual pad. Now if we go to the decay level, we can bring it down so it peaks at the top of that and then goes to a lower sustained level. But we want to lengthen that decay a little bit so it's not quite as dramatic as that. So if we lengthen it all the way out, a little bit too long there. Now, unfortunately, our master's already clipping on here. This is one of the fun things of using Massive. So I'll just turn that on Master initially. So we're going to be adding effects. So what I'm going to do next is add a little bit of white noise here. And this is a little trick that I like to do. So we'll amplify it up. Adjust the color to taste. It's going to be ever so slightly with the amplification. And what we're going to do now is look at some of the effects that are built into Massive. So if we go to our routing real quick and take a gander, we have oscillator 1's being in the bypass. So we're going to skip that for now and put that on oscillator 3, just in case you want to enhance this a little bit. But if we take a look at the way it's routing the insert effects, it's going filter 1 into insert 1, and then insert 2 is following that. So what we're going to use here is just simple delay. Now these are things that you can mess with, but this is going to make it an even more rich type of pad sound. Now we just increase the dry wet nature of it. Only want to give it a slight delay. Then on 2, we're going to put another delay. And slightly, and do a shorter time signature on this. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to route all these directly through filter 1. This way we can put on a low pass. We're going to go with a low pass 4 here, just the cutoff. That way we can cut off some of the top end. We can also increase the resonance if we want to. Get a very specific type of frequency chart or frequency that we want to occupy when we're doing this. Now if I was to kill the oscillator 2 right now, you only have that. So you can see the difference playing a fifth will make. Now if we actually play a full chord, we're actually reaching into ambient type sounds. Alright, so we're going to go over here, take a look at some of the effects built in. Now, I'm not exactly a fan of all the effects built into Massive, but you can go beyond them. So we could add some chorus if we really wanted to. Do a little dry wet. Obviously adjust these to taste. Adjust depth. Don't like the depth that much on that one. Once again, you take a look at your routing for this. So over here, we'll just pop a reverb on, because reverb goes with ambient type stuff very well. Increase the dry wet, make it a large reverb, likely. Increase the size of it. Adjust the color and everything to taste. There we go. We've got a basic pad, or something that we can use as a drone. The other thing, there's a few other tricks that we can go on with this, but let's just go over to square with both of these. Hear what that sounds like. Now, if you wanted to make this all high, you could just go to a high pass. You just need to adjust the cutoff on it. Obviously, you can adjust the resonance to taste as well. The nice thing about Massive is you have a wide variety of these other filters as well. We could use bandpass or band reject if we want to. These are also default ones you'll see in other synthesizers. So adjust the bandwidth. And we'll switch this over to a triangle or a sine while we're doing this. Okay, so now we're on Sine Waves. You'll notice that the white noise is more present now, so we might have to adjust the amplitude on that unless we want to keep it like this. It does have a rather pleasant sound to it. And we'll go to a bandpass real quick. Adjust the bandwidth. Just cut off resonance to taste once again. And obviously, once you have this set up, you can use the EQ within Massive. Now, I'm not exactly the biggest fan of using it, but if you want to do some quick, dirty enhancement to different aspects of your sound and frequencies, easy enough to do it here. So we can tame some of that high end off. Switch over to triangle. There's a basic pad and drone for you. Now, as far as messing around with the other effects and stuff like that, it's not that hard to do. You can come up with some very interesting stuff, like frequency shift right here. Get even more harmonics. And obviously, you can adjust with the different noise oscillators as well. You have metallic. Adjust the amplitude. Or even a fan of water pipes and murmur. Murmur is actually one of the funner ones. Oh god, I just said funner, that's not a real word. Now we could actually isolate this as well. That's what it's adding to the console. Now if we go back to our envelopes, one of the unfortunate things turn this all the way down. Then we'll have it open up. So we're going to have it gradually attack in. We'll give it a lengthy decay and a lengthy release. Now when we play, let's increase the attack. Let's increase the sustain level as well. We'll turn it down a little bit. We'll turn off the filter, that way it's more transparent, and we'll turn off oscillator 1 and the noise oscillator so you can hear exactly what's going on with it. So this is while I'm continuing to hold the note. So it's just going to be a simple one shot. You can see it slowly fading out, and the release is going out. Now combined with oscillator 1 and the noise oscillator, so this comes in handy when you want to add, say, something with a little bit of attack, or say a bass stab or something like that at the beginning of one of your pads. You can actually do that right now. Let's take a sine wave, pitch it down. We'll go 2 octaves. Send it directly through filter 2. That way it doesn't get touched at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make this just a quick and dirty stab. So we're going to have the decay incredibly short. Turn the level down. And oops, forgot to make it one shot. So there we go, one shot. Turn the decay down. Now, still going through the effects and everything, but there you have it. That's some of the ways you can control it some more. Now, if you want to make it more interesting, obviously you can go through your various modulation tools to different effects, like panning for one example. Let's go to LFO. We'll do panning. We'll have it go nuts. And you can sync that, obviously. Might as well. Let's sync it to like a 1/4. 1/24, 1/8. So this is for some of the lighter sounds. Now if we go down to frequency shift, and if we put it on, say, hard clipper or a parabolic shaver with some drive to it, start getting some darker tones to it. Or if we were to lose the chorus, add, say, a tube. Now, once again, like I said, I'm not exactly the biggest fan of the effects built into Massive, but we're going to be going over more effects processing later on. So next we're going to open up FM8 and show the difference between this and Massive. Now, FM synthesis is a way of generating musically interesting sounds by rapidly changing the basic frequency of a sound in a repetitious way. The pattern of change comes from another waveform with a frequency in the hearing range. In practice, it just means connecting the audio output of, for example, an oscillator to a frequency input of another oscillator. There's a lot to say about which waveforms and which frequency inputs to use. Now, FM synthesis is extremely good, however, at creating sounds that are difficult to achieve with subtractive synthesizers. Sounds such as bell timbres, metallic tones, and the tine tones of electric pianos. Another strength of FM synthesis is punchy bass and synthetic brass sounds. Now, I'm going to go nowhere into explaining how to do FM synthesis in this tutorial. It would take incredibly too long to explain everything. So if we go to Expert View, though, we'll take a quick look at some of the things we have here. So if we go to Operator 1, keep in mind that it's called Operator instead of an actual oscillator. You'll notice that each individual one has its own envelopes right here that you can adjust. So I can just go on here, adjust this envelope however I want, with as many points also, which is one of the nice things about it. You can do some pretty complex stuff here. Go to B, you'll notice it has one as well, C, D, and so on. But the easiest way to explain the envelopes is to go to Easy Morph right here. And you have the Amplitude Envelope. Now if we take a look at the Amplitude Envelope, we have the controls for attack, decay, sustain, and release. We also have a Timber Envelope right here. Now this controls everything on here. And the nice thing about the Morph feature is you can take 4 patches and put them all into here, and you can morph between them with this control right here. Now, what I'll say is if you don't know FM synthesis is to take a look at some of the presets in the browsers and analyze them and break them down that way. There's also some content on about FM8 on this very site, which you can take a look at. So we'll open up 80 Atmosphere real quick. You can already hear some of the bell type tones that it does. Now what we'll do is we'll put this up into Easy Morph. Next we'll go to an 80s pad. And we will put this on Easy Morph as well. So if we go to the Easy Morph now, we have 80s pad right here. I'm trying to remember exactly how you can drag this over from presets. So I have 80s pad. Let me open up 80s Atmosphere and go back to Easy Morph. Now all 4 are on here. Interesting. So what we'll do is look at the browser, and what we can do is actually select 2 of these, drag it up to the Easy Morph, and if we go to Easy Morph, both of them are on here now. We have 80s pad and 80s Atmosphere. So if we go to the very top of the morph, we have 80s pad. Now we go to the bottom, or any of the other ones, 80s Atmosphere. Now you can choose 4, doing the very same thing that I just did. If you go to the browser, choose one of them, control click, and you can just drag it right into there. So we'll take 80s pad, and let's find another pad. So we have air pad, and A and D pad, and air pad. So we'll select these 2, drag it over to here, boom, we've got 2 to mess with. So right now we actually have 3. We have air pad, pan flute, area blow, and ethno pipe. So we can go through these and actually combine them all to equal properties. So we get a 4th of each of them. Or we can just take parts of 2 of them. Now with the Amplitude Envelope, you can make a negative decay, or negative attack, negative decay, negative sustain, negative release, or you can go up, have a longer attack, higher sustain, and a longer release. You don't have the graphical look to it like you would with Massive, but it's pretty easy to do it with just these controls, and you can map these to your MIDI controller very easily. You can do the same with the Timber Envelope and everything like that, but not that much to it. So basically just take a look at some of the presets for doing pads and stuff in this, learn some FM synthesis, and you can adjust your envelopes either through using the Easy Morph, which is the easy way, or you can just go directly into your operators, which is under the expert view, and adjust envelopes accordingly to each individual operator. And that's how you do some basic pads. Now if you want to do some advanced stuff, basically all you have to do is take a look at how many voices you're using chords through tuning oscillators, such as I was showing with the plus semitones for an open fifth, detuning and phasing, taking a look at some music theory for chords and emotions in and out of key, or you can use modulation, vibrato, key tracking, legato, the morph panel in FM8 is another great one, and automating elements and effects on the synths, which we'll be going into later. But that's the basics of doing pads and drones.